Hello, my name is Christian Zanka, and I'm doing the summary for discussion board number 8 for group number 4. The discussion board covers two of George Herbert's poems, The Collar and The Love. George Herbert was a Welsh-born English poet, orator, and Anglican priest whose poems have to do a lot with the spiritual side of the world and life. The first question, the first part of the discussion board was to answer a couple questions, one of which was to describe the dramatic situation. As a group, I felt that we all had very similar responses, and I summarized it into one response. The speaker is a priest who is quite simply tired of the restraints, rules, and boundaries placed upon him by the church, and is wistfully and longingly looking back upon all that he has given up throughout his life for God and the church. The priest is struggling with his faith and wishing things were different throughout the poem until he believes he hears God speak to him, upon which he is regrounded and finds himself and his faith once again. The second part of that first part, the second answer to that first part, is the question is given. The poem is written from the point of view of a Protestant minister. Explain the significance or connotation of the word fruit in line 17. This was a question that I felt was touched upon in several different ways, but I tried to do my best in finding one that was summarized the majority of the group's ideas, and that was the use of the fruit within the poem could have several meanings. When a fruit tree blossoms, it bears fruit, but for the priest, he feels that he has not had any fruit blossom from his works and deeds, because he's been toiling throughout his life for God and the church and hasn't had any rewards, so to speak. He feels the need of some sort of reward and consolation for all of the many things he has sacrificed, and is struggling with worldly ideas not befit for a man of his rank and position, that of a priest. He wants to taste the fruit of the world, and that he has been abstaining from for so long, and he also wants to bear fruit from the works he has done, and he feels frustrated that nothing has come of it, and it's causing him to lose faith in his work and in God himself. And the third question to this discussion of the first part of the discussion board was the emblematic title suggests a clerical collar that has become a slave's collar. Also, Honeylee, the speaker's collar, anger, and perhaps the collar that he and at last hears. Explain why Herbert would wittily pun on this word, given the thematic content of the poem. How does it contribute to the theme and its central paradox? This was a problematic question within my group. I feel like we all kind of gave different answers, so I did my best once again to figure out what was most centered between all of ours. And the answer that I found was that he feels that the collar is at first nothing more than a chain weighing down upon his neck, and it is constraining him from enjoying the fruits of life. And however, after God speaks to him, it transforms back from a weight to perhaps something more like a guide, a leash, if you will, that can steer him towards godliness and keep him on track. The second part of the discussion board was to read Herbert's poem Love, which is it's a separate poem, but I feel like it answers quite a few questions that the caller brings up. And the first question within part 2 was to describe the dramatic situation once again. And the dramatic situation in the love is the speaker simply does not feel worthy of the love that is being portrayed within the poem. He feels as though his past sins and grievances are causing him to not be good enough for the love, and struggles with this idea for the majority of the poem. Love bade me welcome, yet my soul drew back guilty of dust and sin. This quote sums up how he's feeling quite well. He has misgivings and insecurities about his past, which are stopping him from loving and being able to accept love. The second question within part 2 was, in what ways does the thematic resolution of the poem resolve conflicts described concerning man and God in the caller? Why do you think Herbert chose this as the last poem in his collection? Our answer that I found within the group was, within the caller, the priest is struggling with his faith, feeling weighed down by the burden that is his to bear, and chained to the church and his vows unwillingly. He does not feel the love of God, and when he is close to giving up, he is answered and his faith is restored. In love, he feels the love of God and simply does not feel worthy of it. But by the end of the poem, he realizes that God has forgiven him of his past without hesitation, and he gives in to love. That was the end of the discussion board for number 8. Hopefully I did a decent job of summarizing this. I'm not too sure. Thank you.